You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is June 11th, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we are bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we actually are going to have just a show with just the Knuckleheads. We're going to talk a little bit about the LA riots, since this is sort of near and dear to all of us since we're here in California. We're going to get into a little bit of the history of sort of how we got here, talk a little bit about the clash between, big time politicians, Trump and Newsom, talk a little bit about what peaceful protesting is, and we'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the games we see happening with the media and all of this as well. But before we get into any of that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. Our lower right-hand corner, we have Leon the Word Brathwaite, last word in liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. So before we get into the riots, let's jump into our liberty quote of the day. So I've got to share my screen.
Right back.
Okay. So as far as our liberty quote of the day goes this time, it is going to be Isaac Asimov. We haven't really talked about him much before, and he is a famous science fiction author and a scientist in his own right too, I guess. But one quote I thought was kind of interesting for this show today said, "Violence is the last refuge of the incompetent." And to me, I kind of thought that maybe this has some overtones on politics, right? Because this whole thing we're going to be talking about today, the LA riots, I mean, this is decades of bad immigration policy, right? Coming to a head. I mean, the solutions are relatively simple. People like Milton Friedman have kind of given us the way forward, and we can't seem to get there. We just seem to do ridiculous, dumb things over and over and over again, and it's sort of coming to a head and leading to violence, I guess. Maybe that's one way to see this. I'm not sure if that's exactly the way Asimov saw it, but boy, I tell you, I mean, when governments do a lot of dumb, stupid things for a long period of time, I think it leads to violence in a lot of areas. What do you guys think?
Well, totalitarian regimes always resort to violence to get their way, and we've seen a lot of that being replicated here in the United States. And some of these people, ironically, always try to tell us that Trump is a dictator. But yet these people are running around in the streets, burning, looting, and doing everything under the sun to have their way politically. I mean, in a normal functioning society, a liberal democracy, and that is a small L, liberal. In a liberal democracy, we would go advocate for changes in the law, which is the way it should be. And we if we don't like what the present body of laws that we have. But what we have now with these leftists on the streets, they are telling us that, well, if we can't have our way, we're going to have a temper tantrum, and that temper tantrum usually involves burning and looting. And this is exactly what Asimov is saying, that violence is the last refuge of the incompetent. The left is so incompetent in promoting their ideas that they have to resort to violence, and that is the only way they're going to ever try to get their way. But we're not going to have it. We're not going to have it.
The only problem I have with the quote is that if it's the last refuge of the incompetent, so you could have two people in an altercation. So one's an innocent person defending themselves either in their home or out on the street from a person that's a criminal and is trying to rob them or do harm to them for some reason, and is seeking refuge in violence because they are incompetent. Okay, so So they didn't do well in school. They had a bad childhood growing up or whatever, and they are so incompetent that they can't, hold down a job or, and they live on the outskirts of society in a violent underworld. And then occasionally to put food on the table or drugs in their body, they will go out and commit violent acts against innocent people. Well, the innocent person, if they have the means to respond to that violence, they're going to take a refuge in violence. For example, if they had a firearm or some other weapon to defend themselves with. So they are going to take refuge in that, but not because they are incompetent. So it's just a one size fits all statement, and it's a universal statement. So I disagree with parts of it and agree with parts of it. That's
Well, I have a problem with your response, Tim, because self-defense, I'm using the scenario that you just laid out. Self-defense is a universal principle that has nothing to do with the incompetence of the person engaging in self-defense. If you have to defend yourself, you have to defend yourself. That is a universal principle. You have to protect your home, protect your family, and all these sort of things. Mm-hmm. I don't think that is what Isaac Asimov was alluding to. He was talking about the people who have their totalitarian tendencies. And this is what he's talking about. And I think this is what is being played out on the streets of Los Angeles right now.
Well, I would agree with you that he's probably not thinking about self-defense, but I am, because violence is used by the defender. That's you can't call it anything else. I mean, it's severe violence against the person that's being violent against you. So I'm just saying that it's just as a general thing. I guess I'm poking holes in it, and I'm sure that he's not referring to a self-defender, that they're incompetent. But he has this one size fits all definition of violence that I don't think fits all. It fits some, but not all.
Yeah, I kind of felt like he was kind of saying, if you are incompetent, then you're very likely to wind up in violence at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it certainly could be read a lot of different ways. So, okay. I mean, that's why I'm looking at our laws, and I mean, I see the just incompetent nature of so many of these, decisions that are made. I mean, a lot of it's reflective of the population. I mean, if they are electing these horrible people to go in there and represent them, then it's not just, you can't just blame the politician. At some point you got to blame the people who put them there too. But I mean, look at California. I mean, my goodness, the people we keep re-electing. We had a chance to recall Gavin Newsom several times, and people still put him back there. So it's
now if he would have said violence is the result of incompetent government, then I would say, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, maybe Asimov needed to get a little more like Heinlein, I guess, and move a little toward the libertarian camp.
Certainly not for my sake.
Well, anyways, let's jump into the riots and some of the violence that's going on out there. Maybe we can spot some incompetence too while we're at it on the show.
Oh, there's a lot of that there, man. There's a lot of that there.
Yeah. So that's going to bring me to this article from Al Jazeera. So everybody in the world is seeing the incompetence that's going on in California right now. But this is sort of a little blow up of some of the things that happened there to lead to it. But we actually have a video too, so we're going to use that to kind of give you a little bit of flavor for what's going on there. And it's maybe a day out of date or so maybe some new stuff has happened today, but this is pretty close. So Leon, I'm going to play KOL 1 here. So let's go.
It was a far different scene over the weekend. Protesters setting up fireworks right there. Police officers right nearby. A line of self-driving vehicles set on fire. Crowd shutting down the 101 freeway downtown. LAPD officers trying to move them off.
Tonight, 700 Marines are on their way to the streets of Los Angeles to assist the National Guard and law enforcement tamp down violent clashes with protesters angry over the Trump administration's immigration policies and arrests. Over the past 72 hours, pockets of LA descending into chaos. Protesters setting cars on fire, dumping bikes and scooters on police cruisers on the highway. Law enforcement firing hundreds of flashbangs and non-lethal projectiles and making dozens of arrests.
And of course, as always in places like California and New York, we get the looters showing up.
I have declared a local emergency and issued a curfew for downtown Los Angeles to stop the vandalism, to stop the looting. Many businesses have now been affected by or vandalized. Last night, there were 23 businesses that were looted.
The curfew is necessary, a necessary measure to protect lives and safeguard property following several consecutive days of growing unrest throughout the city. Since Saturday, we've seen a concerning escalation in unlawful and dangerous behavior.
Well, so as you can see, this is riot is tied to our immigration policy, and it has to do with the enforcement of it, and that seems to be what is driving a lot of this. And of course, a lot of people are upset about the fact that Trump is going in there and using, I guess, a lot of force in a sanctuary state to go and remove people. But this is a problem that, as we talked about, incompetent government, that has been brewing for a long time, and sort of the court came off during the Biden years, I think, as far as the numbers that were coming in here. So I did want to play a video too to sort of refresh people's understanding of that. And before I show the video, there is a chart here. This one, the data comes from the Customs and Border Protection, and you can kind of see the trend of these illegal border crossings that they recorded from 2000 to current. And what's just absolutely unbelievable is you look at, in the Obama-Trump years, the numbers were actually fairly low. And there was a spike near the end of the Trump years. And then he sort of put a lid on that with remaining policy. But when he left and Biden and boom, we have huge numbers right here, right? It's numbers. So let's kind of show what the impact of those big numbers were during that period of time. Okay, for some reason the video is...
Thousands of migrants intent on reaching the United States spent Christmas walking toward the U.S.-Mexico border. Primarily from Central and South America, they had gathered for months in Tapachula, a city in Mexico's southeast state of Chiapas near the border with Guatemala. That was the starting point for the caravan's journey north.
So that was just an example of one of many migrant caravans that had come through Mexico to our southern border. Now let's take a look at some of the chaos that was caused once those migrants got to our border. And of course, almost all this was happening under Biden.
Back here at home to the crisis at the southern border. Record numbers of migrants crossing over this week. And our team was there today as busloads of migrants were released onto the streets in Arizona. Our Julia Ainsley is there.
Tonight, Customs and Border Protection overwhelmed by an unprecedented number of migrants crossing the southern border. Nearly 50,000 undocumented migrants crossed in just 4 days this week, shattering records never seen before. The record levels pushing border stations past capacity. In Eagle Pass, Texas, migrants crossing dangerous waters and waiting by the hundreds to be taken in by Border Patrol. In Arizona, agents dropping off migrants in downtown Nogales to free up space.
Of course, the migrants didn't just stay at the southern border. A lot of them began diffusing into the country, and a lot of them were headed towards Democrat-run cities where the benefits were large, like in New York. So let's see what was happening there.
110,000 migrants. We have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. And this team here, We stated, let's do everything possible before we have to push it out into neighborhoods and communities. Month after month, I stood up and I said, this is going to come to a neighborhood near you. Well, we're here. We're here. We're getting no support on this national crisis, and we're receiving no support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City.
And how was Biden handling all this? Well, he put Kamala in charge.
Do you have any plans to visit the border?
At some point, we are going to the border. We've been to the border. So this whole thing about the border, we've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making.
So there you go. That's that is in a nutshell, what our recent policy has been like on immigration. Hey Tim, your phone is sideways there. You're also muted too.
It's my iPad, and I don't know why it did that. So
Okay.
I'm gonna see if I can fix it.
Okay. Maybe we can all sort of.
Yeah, we all turn sideways. Benny had one way or the other. Yes.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's about the way our immigration policy is running. I guess it just spun to his computer while he was. But
I've got to read. I got to go out and come back in. It did this yesterday, so I'm gonna leave and come back. So
We'll see you again, Tim.
you'll have to let me back.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, anyways, so that's the situation, and so I guess the big question is, who's right and who's wrong in this issue, and certainly I have some liberty ideas on it, but what do you think, Leon? I mean, what's the proper solution here? I mean, this has been a mess for a long time, and Biden certainly blew that mess to the ceiling, it seems like, and now it's going to be messy cleaning it up. So what do you think?
Well, we have a body of laws, okay? If we're gonna have a country, if we're gonna have a sovereign country, we must have a body of laws by which we will be governed. Now, there are times the law may be wrong and we may advocate to change it. But what was happening here, particularly under Biden, is that our laws were not being enforced. Okay? They opened up the border, they let 10, 12, 15 million, I don't know how much it was, nobody really know what the number is, but it's somewhere up there, 15 million or so, into the country. These people were unchecked, unvetted, and nobody knew who they were, where they were coming from in some cases. Many of them came here, I mean, not all of them obviously, but many of them came here and committed some of the most horrific crimes you could imagine. So, first, number one, we have to enforce the law. Number one, there can be no ifs, ands, or buts about that. We must live by the rule of law. I am an immigrant. I can't be driving down the street, speeding down the street, and if a police officer stops me on the street, I can say to him, oh God, I'm an immigrant, give me a break. It does not happen, okay? And I don't see why immigration law should be any different. So that's number one. Number two, on a more longer term basis, if we think our immigration laws are not properly reflecting our belief, not properly reflecting our traditions, because we are a country of immigrants, that's for sure, I am one myself, then we should reform the law. But we have a process by which we do that. So what we're seeing right now at the border, well, it's changed a lot under Trump. What we're seeing where people are just walking across the border and they think they could demand things of us, hell no. Okay? No.
Well, what about you, Tim? What are your thoughts on this whole fiasco? I mean, do you think it's what's the liberty position?
Yeah, because libertarians have a lot of them believe in open borders and so on. And I'm not exactly sure how they're justifying it, other than to say that the rules that are affecting immigration are just arbitrary rules that the government, or through the process Leon described, have come up with. So got to change the process to make it workable, because right now it's just totally broken. It takes decades for people to go through all the hoops and so on to get to a finally to citizenship. So it's broken, but I guess, and then there's the concept that the government owns so much property, and that's why they're making these rules, because if it's all private property, let's say along the border, privately owned, and people came over there, well, you have and no one would complain about a private landowner restricting access to his land, right? Nobody would complain about that.
I don't know about that, Tim. There's an awful lot of people who are farmers and ranchers who have been on the border who have complained.
Some real problems. Yes.
Yeah, the people have come over who are armed and everything else, and sometimes a lot better armed than they are.
Yeah. True. Yeah. But nobody would say that the farmer. What I'm saying is that nobody would say the farmer has no right to police his land, to try to keep people out and try to get people out, that are there on his land, right? I mean,
I don't think so, Tim. I mean, the way the laws are here in California, I would think that it would apply exactly the same as if you're a homeowner and you don't have the right to go out in your yard and point a gun at somebody, right? I mean, so you've got to hide in your house if you own a big tract of land on the border and just wait for help. I mean, that's essentially the situation we're in, right?
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's hard for a single landowner that owns a lot of property to police all the people that could come over. It's just this huge problem, and I think it obviously looks from the graph as though it was perpetuated by breaking the law on the Biden administration by going out. Oh, look at that. This I don't know what happened over here on the left back in 2000. I mean, that's a lot of immigration there too. What does that represent? Who was president then?
Well, that would have been the transition from Bush from
2020. That's from Trump to Biden.
No,
2000 is from
2000 would have been Bush was coming in from who was before Bush? Clinton to Bush.
Yeah. And so I don't know what was going on to have it so high then. And then so we have Obama and Trump on the 2015 era, and even before 2010s, and then through to 2020, and finally here comes Biden, and boom! Look at that big, huge amount. Well, that's breaking the law there. So, it's one thing, and then once you let them in, it's much harder to get them out. So, a huge problem caused. Obviously, you can see what the cause is. And here we are.
Yeah. So
it was caused by the Biden administration not enforcing the law. Quite frankly, that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, not only not enforcing the law, but deliberately, weren't they shipping people up to sanctuary cities all over the place with buses? Planes?
Well, they were flying people into the country, yes, and from the border. They were taking people all over the place. They were absolutely.
Okay, so that's blatant disregard and breaking the law right there.
Well, but I was saying they didn't enforce the law by stopping these people at the border, which they should be, which is what is happening right now.
Yeah. Okay, but they went beyond that too, and
yes, they did.
People, and so here we are now. Okay, so now what are you going to do? And
Well, let me give you guys the scale of what some of these numbers are. According to the Los Angeles Times, it's a little bit, this seems to be a little bit dated of a story back in nearly 10 years old, but they were saying 1 in 10 California workers are in the country illegally. That was then when these numbers were a lot lower on here. So, it's funny. I think I had heard Ben Shapiro quote the Los Angeles Times for a more recent number that talked about 1 in 10 in California, I think, or something like that, being illegal migrants. So I don't know, maybe he's referring to the old number too. I don't know, but this is kind of crazy size numbers, right? And certainly it's got to be a lot bigger after this large spike here. But yeah, so I mean, it's just absolutely nuts, right? That we had these huge amounts of migrants. I mean, I think the estimates are anywhere from like 10 million to 20 million people who are illegally in the country, and our population is around 330 million. So, we're literally talking about, it's over 5%, right?
Yes.
So that's.
So what's the emphasis on COVID-19 pandemic so record high? So what are they saying by that? That what people thought they could come here and not get COVID? Is that what they're trying to say? I don't get it.
Well, I don't get that reference either, quite frankly.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe they're just putting a line there to show what happened during COVID, because it was such a big event. And it's funny because it was going down, and that's from the Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, I think, going on there. So yeah, it's just nuts. But,
well, this article claimed not to be non-partisan, non-judgmental, I guess, and they didn't make very much they didn't allude to who was president at the time. Whether it was a low number or high number, they didn't do much of that. So somehow or the other, they're trying to, I guess, explain what happened without saying what policies were firmly in place at the time. Trump was, I want to wall, I want to keep people out. If they want to come in, they have to do it the legal way. Biden was, let's just open up the damn thing and let everybody walk across the border. And I think this article is just trying, I guess, I don't know, good or bad, to stay away from the obvious politics involved in the change of policy that led.
Well, Leon, let me break in real quick, because we're running out of time on public access. So if you're watching on public access, you're going to have to go online to catch the rest of the show there and hear my thoughts on it as well, because I'm just about to give those. But Leon, did you want to finish your thought?
Yeah, so I just saying that the article, I was trying not to, I assume, not to be partisan in terms of saying who was president when you see the high numbers or when you see the low numbers and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, my thoughts on this, I mean, to me, the libertarian position is we're not against immigration. We're just against socialism and people transferring stuff from tax-paying citizens to, people who, maybe have no meritorious cause to that, right? And so I wanted to bring up a quote from Milton Friedman here, and we've used this before on the show talking about it, but he says, there is no doubt that free and open immigration is the right policy in a libertarian state, but in a welfare state, it is a different story. The supply of immigrants will become infinite. And I mean, I think what we see Milton Friedman saying is exactly what we saw Mayor Eric Adams in New York saying, is that, hey, they're going to feed, they're going to close, they're going to house all these people. And hey, guess what? The supply is huge of people. They got hundreds of thousands of people coming there because there's a lot of free stuff there. And that's the problem, right? Is it if you get rid of your social welfare state, or, at least restrict that toward immigrants who are coming in until they become citizens, then there won't be that perverse incentive. And, we covered another story recently here on the show where we talked about Gavin Newsom giving free health care to migrants. And he did this last year, I think. And he said it would pay for itself, and lo and behold, it punched over $3 billion hole in the budget. And I think they're looking that they're going to have to close like a $12 billion hole this year coming up. So it's absolutely nuts that these people don't learn that if you offer all of these socialist perks, it doesn't, you can't just open the door and say, hey, everybody can come in, which is a shame, because I'd much rather see people who want to come here and work and have relationships with people that are, honest relationships. We want that, right? So that's, just kind of horrible that, socialism ruins everything, I think, is what this is a story of. And that's where we're here. We've got an ugly mess, all these people, and it's it's going to bankrupt the state to take care of them all. So that's kind of my thoughts on it. I just wish we'd come to our senses and get rid of socialism. So.
Well, let me say this. Governments always tend to socialism. They always do. Okay, always. There are no exceptions to that. Anywhere in the world. So there is no condition. There is no condition under which Milton Friedman's vision can be enacted, because there always will be nasty politicians looking for votes. And if they have to look for it within the United States, or they have to look for it across our borders, they will always be looking for it. So Milton Friedman's vision could never be implemented. In a utopian world of immigration, yes, it can happen. But it's never going to happen in my lifetime, your lifetime, or your children's lifetime. Because politicians are dirty.
Well, but Leon, I think it has happened. That's the whole point, right? Milton Friedman talks about this in Free to Choose, is that the idea is, if you go back to, the early 1900s, when they didn't have a welfare state, we benefited from a lot of migrants coming here. And what happened was, if the migrant came and they didn't make it, they didn't get a handout, they just went back home, right? And that's the idea of how it was supposed to work back then. And so everybody who came were people who made it, and they made the country better back in those days, right? So
don't you see a contradiction yourself in your statement? Don't you see the
No,
contradiction in your statement?
Other than the fact that we eventually got to socialism.
Right. I am not disputing. There were periods in our history where indeed the migrants came, or immigrants, or whatever you want to call them, they came, they tried to work. If they don't make it, they went back home, because there was no incentive for them to stay if they didn't make it. But here comes the dirty politician. Why they have to go back home? We could get some votes. And what happened? All of a sudden, they start laying eggs of socialism in our society. And what happened? The migrants just keep coming, and coming in greater numbers.
Yeah. But Leon, I don't think that's all necessarily just the migrants. I mean, we have an awful lot of socialists. I mean, the whole idea of Social Security, that wasn't started for migrants. That was started for our own people. Yeah, I know. They all wanted the socialism. So, yeah. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, well, I think the graph shows that there's other factors involved. I mean, we've had this so-called welfare system consistently. So your graph would normally, if that was the only factor, it would just go from left to right. It would be continually rising as more and more socialism and more.
But Tim, the issue is the barriers, right? I mean, that's the whole point. Is Biden changed the barriers at the border, and therefore he made it easier for them to all come in and access it.
Exactly.
So that was part of the issue. Also too, we've had a lot of Democrats who've recently offered more stuff. They're all saying, hey, we want to get. I mean, it's like the thing Newsom just did. That's a recent thing to say free health care for all immigrants. That wasn't something that was happening 10 years ago. That's a new Newsom thing that's costing us a fortune.
Mm-hmm.
So,
right. So there's other factors besides the lure of free things. It's whether the administration in charge enforces the immigration laws, or whether they just let them go. So that's the other factor, I guess. I'm just saying there's more to it than just the draw of socialism.
But they using but Tim, no, I don't understand your point here. The politicians are using that to draw the migrants to the border.
Okay.
They come to the border. You hear when Newsom sit here in his fancy office here in California in the capital, and he said, "Well, I'm going to give migrants this, and I'm going to give migrants that." Or listen to Eric Adams, who's complaining about the influx of migrants. But look at what he's saying. We have to do this. We have to wash them, feed them, blah, blah, that and that. When a migrant hears that, this is on the internet or wherever the hell it is, a migrant hears this in Guatemala or wherever the hell he hearing that. He's saying, but I could get a lot of good stuff up there. So why I wouldn't come? If I was in their position, I would probably do the same damn thing.
Yeah, well, okay, so this is why you have this blurb on the far right side of the chart. You have this blurb from an administration that had policies to draw more people in and allow them to come in. So two things, more policies, more things to give away for free, like Newsom did, and then let's open up the border. So two things going on, and I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. It's not that complicated. I'm just saying that there's those two factors, at least, probably more, that are involved in this immigration problem.
One of the big scandals they were having in New York too is that they were literally guaranteeing everybody free housing, and there were literally homeless people who were citizens there that were pushed to the back of the line for the free housing, and they were pushing immigrants to the front of the line, which is just kind of nuts. But this is what happens when you go to one of these woke centrals like New York. I like to call them a bluetopian hellhole, because that's what they all seem to be coming nowadays.
Exactly.
But anyways, I think we've kind of talked that one up about what the issues are. But that now we're literally getting some conflicts that are almost heading to a constitutional level between this friction between the sanctuary state and who's in the federal government. Because when these states were sanctuary states and Biden was in office, there was no problem. But now that Trump's in office, there's a conflict. And so let's see. So we do have a video here. Let's show that, and I'll bring up the articles afterwards.
And tonight, an escalating war of words between California Governor Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump. Newsom suing the president for creating the conditions for this chaos when he sidestepped California officials to deploy thousands of National Guard troops.
Are you going to deploy Marines in California?
We hope to have the support of Gavin, because Gavin's the big beneficiary as we straighten out his problems. His state is a mess.
Newsom then slammed by Trump and border czar Tom Homan for his response to the unrest. Homan initially suggesting the governor should be arrested, something Trump seemed to support just hours ago.
So I actually added a longer clip of Trump responding to the reporter's question here about arresting Gavin Newsom, rather, because as with Trump, he's always pretty hysterical, and a lot of times the mainstream media cuts that off.
He's daring Tom Homan to come and arrest him. Should he do it? I would do it if I were Tom. I think it's great. Gavin likes the publicity, but I think it would be a great thing. He's done a terrible job. Look, I like Gavin Newsom. He's a nice guy, but he's grossly incompetent. Everybody knows. All you have to do is look at the little railroad he's building. It's about 100 times over budget. We're putting a flagpole over there. Under budget. I always do under budget. What does your intel tell you about these people causing all the problems in LA? Are they people ICE is trying to deport, or are they professional agitators?
The people that are causing the problem are professional agitators. They're insurrectionists. They're bad people. They should be in jail. Thank you.
Newsom responding again, calling that an unmistakable step toward authoritarianism.
Is Jason frozen?
It looks like Jason's frozen.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. Wow. Well, what do we do without the host?
Jason, okay. Jason.
Jason, you are muted.
He's gone. Oh.
All right.
The hosts have abandoned us.
Wow.
I
okay.
am back. hopefully.
There you are. You were gone for a while.
You're gone.
Muted and frozen.
Frozen and muted.
You guys are supposed to start tap dancing. I mean, the show must go on.
The show must go on whether the host is here or not, right? Okay.
Well, so anyways, this is bringing up a lot of legal issues. Newsom saying you shouldn't have been bringing in the guard, and Trump saying, hey, you got a mess that needs to be dealt with. What do you guys think? I mean, what's the solution here? Who's right?
Timmy can go.
I don't know. What's the question? The solution between Newsom and Trump, or what? What are you saying?
Over the use of the National Guard. Over the use of the National Guard.
Yeah, because a lot of this fight is with the National Guard coming in, Tim. So,
well, it would be nice if Newsom was cooperative on the utilization of it. That's typically what happens. I can see why they're being used sparingly to protect the federal agents, so they can do their job. So I'm okay with it. Generally, and Trump had a fall upon Title 10 which is a limited use of. I think they're not arresting people. They can detain them temporarily until the police come pick them up. So there's rules of engagement that they're using, and I'm so far comfortable with it. We'll see how this plans out. Hopefully we won't have another Kent State fiasco. And so we'll see what happens.
Well, I mean, Tim is right that it will be good if Newsom was cooperating, but he has no authority to stop Trump from doing what he's trying to do with the National Guard. He has none, okay? Because Trump has the legal authority to federalize the state guard, make them into the National Guard, I guess, and put them to work. But law enforcement, I do not want military personnel, whether it's the National Guard or the Marines, doing law enforcement work. Okay, I don't want these people who have all these guns and all that kind of stuff starting arresting people. I don't want that in this country. I really don't. I know a lot about this kind of thing happening in the other countries and where it normally leads. So that is my red line on this. But what Trump is doing, as far as I'm concerned, is absolutely appropriate. We have a mess in Los Angeles, and it looks like it's spreading all over the country. We may have to use the National Guard in other places too, and that'll be fine with me, as long as they do not get directly into law enforcement. Like Tim said, they could detain people until the police arrive. That's fine. There's no problem with that. But I do not want the military in any way, shape, or form getting involved in law enforcement.
Okay, so to make sure I hear you correctly, you're okay with the National Guard, but you draw the line at bringing in the Marines up from Camp Pendleton, correct?
Essentially, I mean, they say they're going to just guard federal property. So, there's a little gray area there. A little bit, I'm a little bit leery about it, but not totally. But I just don't want the military too deep involved in law enforcement. I don't want that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Right. Yeah, I've got my reservations about that too. That's not the job of the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps its job's to kill people and break things, and that's it. And they do that
in foreign countries, though. In foreign countries, not here.
Yeah. Well, here, if someone invaded us from a foreign country,
okay, that's true too. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
So if foreigners came here, then they could put defense. And that's all hands on deck stuff. That's even the militia, all the way to the unsworn in militia from the militia days. Everybody's all hands on deck, including me.
Me too.
Yeah.
With my half blind ass. Yes.
Yeah. Don't expect me to move very fast.
True. Same thing here. Yeah. I hope they don't expect me to operate in the dark. Well, yeah, exactly. We're gonna lose that one. We're gonna definitely lose that one.
Yeah, somebody's going to have to carry my ammo.
I will say this about the Trump administration. I mean, they do some innovative things with some of this stuff. I'm not so much thinking about everything that's happening in LA, but you know, one of the border things they've done with the military is they've literally decided to set up temporary military encampments next to the border so that it invokes new laws when a migrant comes across in those places, because now technically they're on a military base. So I mean, these are some of the things that he is doing that is sort of a creative use, I guess, of the laws, I guess, to help stem this problem. But, you know, I tell you, this is something I've been saying, and I've mentioned it to Liam before. I think I mentioned it on the show. I've certainly posted it on my social media. But, you know, since Trump got elected, I mean, I've been saying the way that they should have approached this problem is just to address it in the red states and drive the migrants toward the blue states, because this is exactly the problem that we're seeing. The people in the blue states are united against Trump. They're triggered to anything he does, they're going to fight him on. They're sanctuary states for the most part. And why not simply have positive stories about working with local law enforcement in the red states, so that it's a cooperative effort to get the worst people out of there. And then essentially you're going to send a signal to drive people voluntarily, like the way that they were going to New York before. Well, they'll go a lot faster if they know now that the federal government is working with Texas and Florida and all these to round people up. And then these blue states will be confronted with their terrible policies, right? I mean, it'll all be just like Eric Adams in New York City, where he's saying, hey, we can't handle the numbers, right? Well, maybe you change your policy then, right? I mean, they'll be confronted with their own terrible policies.
Well, you know, that's a good idea, but there may be, I don't know, this is just a hunch, but there may not be a whole lot of people that are in the red states that are illegal.
No, that's not true, Tim. Almost all
Texas,
Texas
and well, Arizona is a kind of purple state, but Texas has a lot. Arizona has a lot. New Mexico has a lot.
In fact, this was part of the strategy that they thought Biden and the Democrats were doing, is that they thought they were trying to overload those states with people who would become Democrat voters.
Yes,
so that's why Abbott and DeSantis were trying to ship them to blue states.
Yeah,
so that they could
even Martha's. He shipped a busload to Martha's Vineyard, and they declared an emergency. Oh my goodness gracious! How could we have this in our wonderful democratic enclave? No! Let's ship them out.
Yeah, the great heroes of Martha's Vineyard who made 50 migrants disappear in one day from their island.
They were so efficient. They were so efficient in it.
There was another instance that I think they could have done differently. Okay, there's this lady, a Chinese lady, been here over 20 years. So this is not from Biden. And she was loved by the community, worked in the local restaurant as a waitress or something. And anyway, she's she's been picked up by ICE, and now nobody knows. I don't know what her story is now, but you know, I mean, that's not the problem. Okay, the little old lady's from China. You know, maybe she's here illegally. Okay, put her back on the back burner for a while. You got more important people. Okay, go after the cartel members and the MS-13 guys. Okay, don't go after the little old ladies. All right, that's what I'm saying. It wastes resources and it pisses people off.
No, Tim. Okay, the woman is here illegally. Okay, fine. Okay, I know she's been here a long time, but that says nothing. She's here illegally. However, though, just to be clear about the policy, they are going after the hardened criminals. That is what they are doing. They're going after hardened criminals. They're not going after people like this little old lady. But what happens is that if they go after the hardened criminals, in the process of doing that, they encounter somebody who might be here 10, 20 years. If they're here illegally, then they become part of their pickups. They'll pick them up. So it's not that they're going after these people. It's that these people might be next door or someplace around or whatever, and they end up part of the dragnet.
Do you know that for a fact? I mean, these are just.
I am telling you, people. That is their policy.
That's how.
That is their. As a matter of fact, Tom Holman said that on TV, on national TV.
Who said that?
Tom Holman.
Tom Holman. He's the director, the czar of the border efforts, but of ICE efforts. But
okay, meanwhile, this lady's taken up a cell. Okay, occupying a cell, eating food. that could be, the cell could be occupied by somebody really dangerous that was here only for 1 or 2 years, right, under the Biden administration. Somebody, but she's taken up space. Okay, I don't know. To me, it's a waste of resources. It's typical government waste, and it's counterproductive again because it pisses people off, and you know, it does more harm than good. You're right, technically. You know, they could all take them out, and she could be sent back to communist China. I wonder how that would work out, and maybe that would be fantastic. Maybe we could all go hip hip hurrah. This lady from China is going back to China where she belongs, and because she's here illegal, because Lord knows we have no way for her to become a citizen that works, right?
Well, Tim,
You know,
the only issue that I would push back on here, because I largely agree with you, I just think the problem gets fixed if we get rid of socialism. Then we get people coming through the gate, and then we know who's here. Part of the problem is that, you know, you're imagining that we know even who all these people are. Biden literally just handed them phones and let them in. I mean, this is the problem. There's people who are terrorists and other people, and it's like we don't even know for sure.
So go after them, not the little old lady.
No, I know.
They did not go after the woman,
Tim.
Tim. I can guarantee you that they did not go after the woman, but she became part of the dragnet because she was close to somebody who was here illegally that they were actually looking for.
She's in jail. I think they went after her, Leon.
No,
she's in jail.
No, Tim, no.
No, she's not in jail.
She is in jail, but they did not go after her.
Okay,
Tom Homan said more than once on national TV what their priorities are.
Okay,
it's the hardened criminals and the terrorists.
Great.
That's what they're looking for.
They didn't.
But if they find somebody else in the process of doing that, they're going to take them.
Oh, yeah, I see. So that's not going after them, though. Okay. Sounds like going after them to me.
Well, I think there's a confusion here in the sense. I think Leon's saying she wasn't the target of the raid, but she
was not. I get that. I get that. But they went after her and put her in jail. Okay. End of story. Plain as that. Okay. I get that they weren't targeting her. They didn't get up in the morning and go, hey, I heard we have this this lady that's been here 20 years from China. Let's go get her. No, I get that. Okay, come on. Jesus.
Well, but I think this is the issue.
At the end of the day, she's here illegally, period.
Well, but I think this is the issue, is that no matter what, when you've wound up having a policy that sort of let in the door to 10 or 20 million people, suddenly it's going to be ugly no matter what happens. This terrible immigration policy has led to us into this ugly situation. And
and a lot of people that have been here for a long time and very productive citizens, not on welfare. They have been towing their own. They have been contributing to society, been paying their taxes, blah 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 blah, and they're going to be sucked up and sent back to not just a place that was not their home, been not their home since they were 6 or 7 or whatever it was that they were brought here. I get that, and personally, I just think that's a tremendous waste of government power, and the reason it is because government is inept as can be when it comes to having a track for somebody to. I don't know how Leon did it. I don't know.
It took me 16 years to do it, and I did it all legally.
Well, good for you. But you know, there are a lot of people that have been here longer than that and been trying to do it legally, and it gets to the point where they end.
You cannot break the law. You cannot break the law initially and then get the fruits of breaking the law. You cannot do that.
Okay, but they've at their last ropes, and they don't want to go anywhere else. They don't want to go back home. So they want to stay here, and if that means stay here illegally because there's no other option. Here's their deal. Here, what would you do, Leon, back in the day, back at year 15, and somebody gave you a roadblock and say, hey, Leon, guess what? You're going to be illegal from this point on. You have a choice: stay here illegally or go back to Trinidad and Tobago. What would you have said to them? What would you have done?
Tim, I'll answer your question. Let me answer your question.
I asked you one first.
Well, I'm answering your question. Listen.
Answer it.
Listen.
No, I'm not going to answer your question, whatever it is.
What do you think? I'm going to answer your question. Listen to me.
Because you are not answering my question. So
I'm going to answer your question. So listen.
Answer it. What would you have done if back in year 15 they would have told you that?
Just keep quiet for a second and answer your question.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we've got a civil war here.
Go ahead and ask it. I will not answer it. Ask away.
Tim, are you hearing properly here? Are you hearing properly?
Yeah, I'm hearing you say.
Just keep quiet, and I'm going to answer your question. Just keep quiet. I'll answer your question.
Ask
it. Not ask. Answer. Okay.
Oh, answer. Okay, I'm not hearing.
You're not hearing. Thank you. Okay.
Answer.
If I was put in that position, more than likely, I would have chosen to stay. However, I will be fully aware of the potential consequences. It's just like if I'm an immigrant, I jump in a car without a driver's license, I'm driving down the street at 50 miles an hour or in a 30 mile per hour zone. When the policeman stop me, I'm not going to tell him, oh God, I'm an immigrant, give me a break. If I choose to stay here illegally, if I chose that, I must be aware of the potential consequences. And I will live by them when they come to me. Period.
Okay, well, that's what these people are doing too, I'm assuming. They're hoping for the best, and they're hoping that eventually there will be a way that they can become citizens. Meanwhile, they'll be here illegally and hope for the best.
No, that is not what they're doing, Tim. That's not what they're doing, okay? And you know why I know that? We have people burning down Los Angeles to keep these people here. And they're waving, you know what flags they're waving? Mexican flags in the United States. So no, they're not doing that. They don't want the consequences.
So, okay, what Leon's just said, here, let me paraphrase what you just said. You said that these people here that are rioting right now have been going through this long process legally, and now they are faced with a situation that they're either going to have to go back to Mexico, where they have the flags. They got the flag from Mexico. They either have to go back, or they're going to have to stay here and hope for the best. And just to add, a little excitement to their lives, they're going to riot. That doesn't make sense. That just look. I know personally.
I have no clue what you just said.
Let me jump in. Let me jump in here because I think maybe there's a way to solve this potentially if people are open to it. But what would happen, let's say, if the federal government, because the federal government controls immigration policy, and the problem is that you've got a lot of blue states who just want to be welfare states and hand other people's money. So what if you got what if there was some kind of creative solution here where maybe Trump got these people to sign an agreement? If they stay, they can't take any benefits until they become citizens of any type, and then they have a choice, right? And it's an out there choice, and maybe that would be sort of a moral way around this, where hey, you're in here illegally, but as long as you agree that you're not going to be any kind of a drain on the system, that you're not going to take free housing from government, I don't care if it's a blue state or a red state. Okay, once they see that you've taken it, boom, you're gone. At that point, maybe that would be a solution.
I bet a lot of people would take that offer, and because a lot of people aren't even using welfare. They're like this lady working at
that's the problem, Tim.
Restaurant.
We say, I think the Cato numbers are all BS on this, because we saw what happened in New York. I mean, we literally saw it. Eric Adams, that Cato is sitting around saying, hey, these people don't cost anything. They're a net benefit to society. And then we say Eric Adams saying, this is going to destroy our city.
Exactly.
He's a Democrat. Why would he say that unless they were handing out a ton of benefits? So
let me add something here. Jason, I want to add something to this thing, this proposal you have about Trump people signing things to say, well, I'm not going to take welfare. That policy is in place right now. Do you know about chain migration? Do you know about chain migration?
No. I get all that. They have to revamp all this stuff to redefine what benefits are, and they can't take anything from NGOs. They can't take anything. You can't have any government money essentially going. I don't care if a private citizen wants to hand the money. The issue is the government can't.
I'm saying your proposal. There's a proposal right now. It's called Form I-8864. Okay, where people sign saying they will not take welfare, and that, as a matter of fact, they hold the person who's sponsoring the immigrant liable if they take welfare and that kind of stuff. And every blasted one of them, well, not everyone of them, a lot of them do take welfare. Usually, it's like a 3 to 5 year period. You cannot take any kind of welfare, any kind of benefits, and that kind of stuff. And a lot of them do, and nobody enforces it. And that's exactly what's going to happen if you put your policy in place.
I think Jason is frozen again, Leon.
Oh, God, no.
Oh, my goodness.
Here, let me drop out and come back in.
Okay.
He's got to come back.
All right.
We're the only people with solid computers here today.
Well, that gives us plenty bandwidth to argue about policy, man.
Yeah. We need to have computer policy here as well. We need to have.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Yeah, I think he's sneaking back in.
Yeah, here he comes. Here he comes. Here he comes.
Or is he?
You mean total abandonment, Tim? Seriously? There he comes.
You have to let him in, right? Oh
no, he could. He has the capacity to let himself in.
I don't have the capacity to stay online, apparently.
Apparently,
well, you don't.
But I came back and you two were calm and had made
Yeah, we cool, man. We cool, man. Tim and I will just get into it at times, but we cool. But there's one before we go on, there's one before we leave this whole issue about the National Guard and all that kind of stuff. There's one aspect of this I want to raise. You know, these Democrats, these people in there, people like Gavin Newsom and company, they are nothing but a bunch of hypocrites, you know. Do you remember the time when we used to say, when you hear the expression state rights, it's just, oh, that's racist to be talking about state rights, you know, because it was normally associated with the southern states who had broken away long ago, and then they always wanted the state rights to deal with their own affairs. You know, Gavin Newsom now, because of this National Guard issue now, you know what he's saying? He's saying the state have rights. And Trump breached our sovereignty. So now he's arguing for the state rights that these people, these same people, used to be calling so racist back in the day. And here we go.
That's a good point.
That run our country and our state.
Yeah. And about the video floating around when Newsom was bringing out the National Guard himself.
Well, yeah, he did.
For the same reason.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Right. Yeah. So two examples.
I just want to let people. Well, yeah. Hold on. I just want to interrupt and let people know that we do have a few comments from people who are watching, and you know, somebody, a guy named Pete said, "You liberals are the problem." And Leon, thank you for the common sense. So, and let's see. And then Obama Dad said, let's face it, Biden forfeited the safety of Americans for a hope to sway the balance of voter base in favor of the Democrats. So, and he says there is a solution. Self-report, face deportation. You can get a free flight home and $1,000 and the opportunity to come back legally. Yeah, I think Trump did offer that too.
Yes, yes. So, as a matter of fact, Christie, no one who is the Secretary of Homeland Security, is pushing that policy right now. To be honest, she is.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, I don't know that we're going to make any more progress on this particular issue, but one issue I did want to talk about, because this is an issue we talked about before on the show. Me and Leon kind of got into it, and I think there's some interesting video here that maybe adds a little bit to that, but it's the idea of what is peaceful protesting, and we have heard a lot of different people saying different things about peaceful protesting. I mean, my goodness, one of the things, let's see, I've got to share screen to show this now because I left, so I have to pull this up again. But so I don't know how many of you all remember, this particular Chiron from CNN, fiery, but mostly peaceful protesting. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in the show too. But the point is what is peaceful protesting? And so there was obviously we've seen constantly now these issues with people blocking freeways and such. Well, there was video where somebody blocked a police or an ICE vehicle, and where does that fall under peaceful program or peaceful protesting? So I'm going to show the video on that, and we'll get a chance to explore that issue just a little more. Let's see, I think that is KOL 4. No, that's KOL 3. Wait a second. You know what? I don't think that video got uploaded yet. So
okay.
Let's go to the issue with the Waymos, I guess. So the Waymo story. We'll talk about that, and maybe I don't know what happened to that video. Okay, well, anyways, we will maybe get to that story another time on peaceful protesting. But for some reason, the protesters had something against Waymos.
And this is my first view of the Waymos. These are going to be, it looks like these are on the north side of the 101 freeway on Los Angeles Street. And from our other angle, from our other Air 7, we were seeing that one of them was actually on fire. I don't see flames. I do see the flames further to the right, but we're going to hold on this shot right now because we can see one individual breaking windows on those Waymos.
So this pointless destruction of these Waymos for no particular reason, just because these peaceful protesters wanted to destroy stuff, not even looting, just destroying. And it means that Waymo is pulling its vehicles from downtown Los Angeles, maybe the greater Los Angeles, I'm not sure. But that's essentially where we're going with all this now. In fact, here's a meme from Charlie Kirk that actually shows a video of some of the Waymos, I guess, driving off in a line. So I don't know if that's like the flight of the Waymos from LA.
Flight of the Waymos, yes.
So and this is the article here from the New York Post that talks about Waymo suspends the self-driving service in downtown LA. All because these terrible policies, right? The terrible immigration policies, terrible, crime policies in Los Angeles, just one thing after another. And here they are driving an innovative company out of their state. So, I mean, the robots are fleeing for their lives to get out of California, or at least Los Angeles. What do you guys think about this story? That's these are self-driving taxis, they're getting out of Dodge.
I'm wondering if these idiots, these lunatic idiots, thought these Waymos and Teslas are the same company, same vehicles, kind of thing. If it was something like that, I thought was going on, because I can't find any rational reason why, even though their lunatic minds are at work here, any reason why they would attack these kind of vehicles. So I think they must have confused these things with Teslas for some reason. These high-tech self-driving kind of thing, all the electric times and electric vehicles, kind of all they put it all in the same bag of things that would to be destroyed or stuff like that. I don't know. I think they were confused as to who owned these vehicles, quite frankly.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, why do they rob the jewelry stores? Well, because there's expensive stuff there. And why do they burn the Waymo cars? Well, because electric cars burn hotter and make a bigger mess than regular cars. So, and they don't have any drivers in them, so they just go. They're either easy targets. So, it's just criminal activity. It's gone well beyond a protest. It's no longer a protest. It's just criminal activity. That's all. And
yeah,
that's it.
And as far as being easy to stop too, I mean, all they have to do, because these cars are trained not to hit anybody, is just stand in front of them, and that's all they did, and they're completely defenseless. I mean, these robots are just defenseless.
It's the typical criminal picking on the defenseless. In this case, the defenseless car.
Most definitely.
Hey, when AI takes over, it's going to remember that.
Yeah, for sure.
It's going to come after you.
Yeah, don't fly a Mexican flag in front of your house. AI will come after you.
AI will come after you.
AI's got a memory that it's digital. It doesn't go away.
It's excellent.
The Revenge of AI. That's the next movie.
One thing though that this particular picture shows, and we saw this too with one of the iconic pictures that came out of here, where it was in one of the videos we showed earlier, where there was some guy, shirtless guy, standing on top of, I think it was one of the Waymos with a Mexican flag, while the thing was just trashed and burning, and here's a bunch of people doing the same thing, but they're literally hanging on to Mexican flags while they're doing this protest. And it's sort of like, I don't know. I mean, it's like the optics are terrible, because if you're saying you want to be here, to me, it seems like the smart move is you hold an American flag up, right? And say, hey, I believe in these values that you guys have, and that's why I want to stay. Not, hey, I think Mexico's the best. And it's kind of like, why don't you go back? I mean, that's the whole fight right here, right?
My point exactly.
Yeah.
If you think the country is so damn bad, and Mexico is a hell of a lot better, well, nobody's stopping you from leaving. Yeah. So I don't get that. I don't get that at all. And I don't know how the leftists think any of this is going to help them. The rioting, the flag waving, Mexican flag waving. How is any of this going to, the looting? How is any of this going to help their cause? How?
Yep. I mean, this is going to be a big issue, for one party or the other is probably going to be a big winner out of this politically as you go into the election. So I'm sure they'll be pulling every sneaky trick they can to try and gain advantages in this whole thing. It's too bad too, because I mean, like we've talked about before, I mean, a lot of immigrants, if they truly are here to work or have just a consensual relationship with somebody, I mean, that's a good thing. It's not a terrible thing, right? It's just socialism has screwed it all up. But anyways, if you guys don't have any more thoughts about the poor plight of the robots who are being forced to to migrate somewhere else, right?
I'm telling you, it's mistaken identity. Seriously, mistaken identity.
Yeah, it's like the robots are being forced to deport themselves. I don't know.
Exactly.
That's pretty crazy. But anyways, this does bring us to sort of our Knucklehead Noise Patrol then, and that's sort of where we try and talk about something that's kind of ridiculous, as if this one wasn't a little bit ridiculous already. But that's kind of the gaslighting that's been happening with the media. And, actually this time around, it's not quite as bad as it was before. We showed that, whole CNN Chiron from back in the Summer of Love, the George Floyd riots and stuff. And this is, we haven't really seen quite this bad from the media, although from Democrat politicians on the media, we kind of have seen some pretty crazy stuff. So let's play the video here that we have for that. and we can see some of that. And this one we do have the video for.
Large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
So if you remember back to the BLM riots in the Summer of Love 2020, there was a lot of outrageous reporting like that famous chyron that said fiery but mostly peaceful protesting with the background in flames that you can see here. But this time the media is actually being a little more responsible. I mean, they keep trying to indicate that things are sort of peaceful, but it's really the Democrat politicians who are kind of embarrassing themselves in these different news interviews. And so we're just going to kind of show a montage of, I guess, the craziness of the way that the Democrats are trying to gaslight us on what's happening out there.
But this is not what's happening. We are having an administration that's targeting peaceful protests, people that are there to protest. The president is sending the National Guard because he doesn't like the scenes. He doesn't like the scenes of people peacefully protesting.
When there is a gathering, a large gathering of people, the anarchists see it as an opportunity and they move in. So always have to be careful whether you see a burned car or broken window or whatever it is. It may be the exuberance of the moment, but it may be the anarchist setting in.
And then this last one is just a montage that somebody put together, overlay of Maxine Waters just gaslighting us to death.
Protest, and even those who were out of step with what we are advocating, peaceful protest, did not create any violence. Nobody was shot, nobody was killed. Get it in your head. And so when martial law is called, what are you going to say? I missed the point. Don't miss the point, you all. Don't think that somehow, because they called out the National Guard, there was violence. There was no violence. I was on the street. I know. And I went from downtown detention back out into the community, talking to people, what happened in Paramount, what happened in Compton, what happened in Inglewood. So, first of all, get it straight. And don't just rely on what you've been told or the few incidents that you saw.
There you go, Maxine Waters. Maybe she was hoping to get a job at CNN. I don't know. But apparently there was no violence.
These people are beyond fantastic, you know. These were the same people who were telling us Biden is just fine. We can't keep up with him. This guy is so sharp, it's unbelievable. And now we know differently, right? Now they're telling us the same thing now. Oh, there's no violence. No, don't believe your lying eyes. There was no violence. How could there be? You didn't see these people just peacefully protesting and you guys just getting all hysterical and bent out of shape. Oh, come on, please. Okay.
Nobody was shot. Nobody was killed.
Yeah, just remember, these were the same people who told us Biden was so sharp and we could not keep up with him. Okay, just remember that, please.
Okay.
Well, you know what I thought was kind of funny. Unfortunately, I didn't bring it up, but the Babylon Bee had an article where it said Trump responds to mostly peaceful protests by bringing in mostly peaceful military. yeah, you know, that's it's about the same definition. You know, most of the time they're not shooting, right?
Right. Yeah, and I saw the one where it said the Marine Corps, they're mostly peaceful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny though. I mean, you know, it would have been nice to have been able to have that conversation about what is peaceful protesting, but we'll save that for another show because I did think there was some good video that would have given us some good discussion on that. But I tell you, I don't know. Did you guys have any parting thoughts for anybody who's watching on the riots before we leave? Any last insights here?
I would say let's not fall for the BS. Okay. These people are breaking the law and they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. We cannot allow law breaking. We cannot allow law breaking. And we cannot allow selective prosecutions of people within this country, this great land of ours. If we allow that, we are allowing anarchy to take over. So please, we cannot allow this. We must enforce the law.
Yeah, if you want to protest, just make a speech, carry a sign, that kind of stuff.
All fine.
Absolutely. And don't block people from going from point A to point B. And that's about it.
Indeed.
Yeah. That's kind of my thoughts on it too as well. Well, I tell you, if you're watching and you enjoyed the show, go check out some of our other shows. We've interviewed a lot of people who are doing a lot in the liberty movement, and think about what you can do before our next show in your community to advance the ball for liberty, and whether that be, joining the local Libertarian Party or finding some way to make a difference in your community otherwise, just to advance the ball for liberty. But if you don't, we're seeing that, our liberty is disappearing pretty fast out there. So until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.